Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is Thaumcraft for Minecraft 1.12.2. Today I'm going to show you the real basics on how to get started and unlocking some of the beginning accesses of Thaumcraft. Basically what you do have to have is have explored the world a little bit, and by doing so, you may have come across some unique items. Now I am in spectator mode right now, and I'm currently going down into the underground. And by doing so, you may find some new and interesting things. For example, over here we see some special crystals. These are what you're going to be looking for. Now once you find these, of course you're going to want to mine them up. Once you get them, you get this little note here. Your fingers tingle strangely as you handle the crystal. What does this mean? Maybe some rest will inspire you. It's best if you end up sleeping in a bed, but I do recommend that you grab yourself a whole bunch of these crystals as you go, and to try and get a bit of variety. Don't forget that you may also come across things like quartz ore or amber bearing stone. Both of these are materials that you're going to want to collect as well, as of course any of the other regular vanilla ores that you may come across as you proceed. It won't hurt to also have a little bit of clay on hand, as you'll find out why later on. So I feel I should mention that I currently am using a couple of extra mods that I do recommend that go very well with Thaumcraft. And that is Thaumcraft Inventory Scan, and that's by Blay the Ninth, as well as Thaumic JEI, which will allow you to, just best find things in JEI so that you can find things much easier using Thaumcraft, as well as see the different aspects that may be available. First and foremost, once you have achieved that, you'll want to get yourself a nap. You'll get this new notice here. You awaken from a strange dream. You quickly write it down before the memory fades, and therefore you should find in your inventory this new book titled Strange Dreams. You click it, and it should tell you the different steps that you'll need to take. Yes, I'm going to give you lots of spoilers on this, so be aware that that's kind of a thing. Now with that out of the way, what does the Strange Dreams book reference? Well, it talks about using flint, a bowl, and redstone, as well as 3 different kinds of V crystals that you may have found in your travels. Now they can be just about any kind that you want, as long as there are 3 different kinds. Then it just needs to be a shapeless recipe, which means I could put it up here, I could put the bowl over here, this over there. It doesn't really matter how they all work, and they'll make Salus Mundus. I recommend making a few of these. I've just made 3 right there, so I can get things going. And your first step is going to be to use it on an oak bookshelf, or just your vanilla bookshelf. You just right-click, and it should turn it into your own little Thaumonomicon, which is your instruction manual for this. First step, make an arcane workbench is what this is basically talking about. It also talks about Salus Mundus, and it now has the recipe stored for you. By clicking on this, it then also opens up a little bit of other information. Types of knowledge. There are 2 types, observations and theories. Observations are things that you'll scan with a tool. I will show you briefly. Theories are things that you'll be researching via a research table, which I will also be showing. Then you've got your theory crafting, which this is where that actually comes in. Scribing tools and a research table. In order to make those, you'll need to make a table. If you're unsure of that, the recipe is very basic. It's just some slabs on top of a couple planks, and I get myself a wooden table. Place that down, and then I just add myself some scribing tools. Scribing tools. You're going to need a piece of clay, some glass, feather, and an ink sac in order to make your basic set. Reason being is you first need to make a file, which is this. You get glass files. You get 8 of them from one crafting recipe, which is actually pretty good. Then an ink sac, as well as feather. And I recommend you actually make 2 of these instead of the usual 1, because you're going to want to keep 1 with you at all times that you can think of it. And there we go. I now have a second one. You can just keep the files for now. They're not going to do very much. But you take the scribing tools onto your hotbar, then you just right-click on the wood table, and you'll create yourself a research table, which can be used for research. You'll notice here I have a bookshelf icon in place. This is because I have bookshelves nearby, and I can use that as a study aid. In order to do so, it will therefore use up some of my ideas. You start off with some basic ideas. As you progress through the mod, you'll gain more and more ideas. With other objects nearby, you might also be able to gain more information by using those as well. Every time you use one of these motivational tools, like the bookshelf in this case, it will use up one of your ideas, but also may give you big bonuses and extra effects as you research things. In order to actually research, you will need paper. And this is going to be something that is very intensive for this mod, is paper. You'll also want to carry paper with you. This is also going to coincide with the scribing tools, as I previously mentioned. Now to go back over here, I have paper and I can start doing theories, if I so desire. In order to do a theory, you just need to click the Create Theory button. And by doing this, you can continue on with research. You just click here, and it gives you options. Experimentation. You perform some random experiments to see if something could be discovered. You gain 10 to 25 progress in a completely random category. Therefore, I click on that, and that's what I get. And if you have problems seeing things because of JEI over here, you can just type a bunch of letters or something like that to make it go away. Alternately, you can see here that there are a couple different fields. On the top, I've got one that's kind of in a colored area here, Alchemy, and then I have Fundamentals here with 3 and a -1. Now, what this means is that if you are to complete this, you basically are completing your theories by using up all of your ideas. Any experience that you learn in these fields will be donated to your progress, which I will show you once I've exited this. But keep in mind that your highest one, or ones, as there may be multiple depending upon the different paper researches that you come up with, will be at 100% experience gained. Those that are not will be at a 33% reduction, so therefore you can see here the Fundamentals is getting a -1. So if I click here and continue on, I now have 2 to choose from. Reject Fundamentals, which is here. You come to the realization that Fundamentals is not vital to your current research. You will not gain any more progress in Fundamentals or draw any cards related to it. You will not lose your current progress, etc. Or I can go over here, Experimentation, and go with 10 to 25 progress in a completely random category. I think that's wonderful because I don't have any progress in any categories right now. Let's continue on, and you can see that there's a cost associated with some of these at the top. Other ones may not have any cost, but it will also affect your experience progress. I'm going with Experimentation in this case. I have 2 left, and you can see here Ponder. This one will give 25 progress divided evenly between all current active categories and a bonus draw. But it will use up all of my ideas, so the next one that I get a bonus draw on won't really exist. So I'll only gain the 25. Or I can go with Universal Theory, which will split evenly amongst all currently revealed and valid ones. In this case, I'm going to go with a Ponder and get a whole bunch on all of them, and then hit Complete Theory. Now before I hit Complete Theory, I want to show this off a little bit so that you can better understand. I'm going to escape out of this, go back into it, and you can see it will keep your status on here. If you need to, you can mine up the table and cancel things out. Otherwise, usually at the bottom will be an Abandon Theory or Cancel Theory option that you can choose and start over again. All experience will be lost in that case. We've made a research table and a scribing tools. I also explained how it's used. We're going to click Complete. And therefore it tells you everything about all those things that were on there. Now, if for some reason I have something that shows up on this table while I'm crafting and it has an orange exclamation mark next to it, then that means that there is a requirement of that item and it will be consumed in that process or theory completion. If there is just an image of an item, you just need to have that in your inventory and it will not be consumed. So that is something definitely worth pointing out. If we go into the first steps, we've already done our arcane workbench. Oh no, wait, we haven't. We need to take some Salus Mundus and we should be able to just use it on a crafting table. There we go. We now have our own arcane workbench, which has your normal crafting mechanics inside of it, plus it has 6 additional slots for the 6 basic V crystals that you may have found, hopefully have found many of, in the underground. Therefore you can also store them in this location and use them for crafting later on. But since I've already completed that, we're just going to continue here, click Complete, and move on to the next area. Observation Fundamentals. You need to observe things in order to unlock that. And in order to observe things, you'll need a way of doing it, a thermometer. A thermometer is actually a simple tool to make. If you click here, it will tell you the recipe is just some gold ingots, glass pane, and a bunch of one of each of the crystals, plus 20 V. I recommend, if possible, that you make 2 of these, as you will probably be needing 2 of them shortly. Now, here you go. You can see 20 V cost, and in this area is 373. Holy cow, actually, I wasn't expecting there to be that many in this area. But this is a wonderful area. It's a magical forest, so extra magic for me. Now, if I click here, I will take it out. I now have a thermometer. I can take a second one. I have 2. And that used up some of the V, and you can see it's slowly recharging over time as the V flows back in the area. Now, if I put a thermometer on my hotbar and I look around, you can see that there's a lot of kind of bluish sparkles everywhere. Bluish sparkles represent things that you have not learned about yet. If you are actually looking at something with bluish sparkles, for instance this furnace, you see it has a few items inside of it as well, and you want to scan it, you will actually need to hold Shift so that you don't access its internal inventory. If you just want to scan something that doesn't have an inventory, you just right-click. And you have learned something new. And I can continue on with something else. I have some stone tables for a floor. I have to Shift right-click in order to scan those. Now in here I have some coal and glass. I can scan that. And I also have a mod installed that will allow me to scan things in my inventory. If I were to take my thermometer and just hold it over these items, it automatically scans it. That's one of the mods that I told you about at the beginning of this video. So, with this in mind, you can then scan other things, like an oak chest. And it also works to scan things that are not, or that are in the inventory. I have not scanned things like redstone. I can see what the aspect is in here because of some of the add-on mods that I have. But if I put this in here, put a piece of redstone, and then I scan the chest with a Shift right-click, I have scanned, effectively, the redstone in there. So therefore, this will allow you to scan multiple items at once. Going back to the Thaumcraft, clicking on here, I have now scanned things with a thermometer. If you really need more observation fundamentals, just scan a few things around out in the world. If not, the Thaumcraft itself, you can also throw things out and scan them like so. There we go. And you can get a lot of bonus points just from scanning the Thaumcraft. Now, if you are to continue on, you just click here. We'll complete that. It tells you all sorts of more interesting things, as well as you now have a Knowledge Totals tab. If you look, you'll see that observation is what we're talking about. To view those knowledge totals, you can see that we have 1 observation fundamentals, 1 observation oromancy, 1 in alchemy, nothing in artifice, but they're very close to being maxed out, as well as arcane infusion. You can get multiple points in these, but you need to have enough items scanned in these different categories in order to spend these points. As you look here, aspects of essentia, the different things that you have scanned in the world, there is, if you hold onto the thermometer and you Shift and you look on the top left there, it says 372.8. That's how much V is in the aura around us. If I were to go into a different chunk, now I'm using another mod to actually demonstrate this. I have some borders here. A different chunk is going to have a different V quantity. Shift, it's 364.5. If I walk across this into the next area, it's going to be 372.8. So therefore, it's going to be much varied depending upon where you are, where you go, and so on. Keep in mind that you're probably going to have a higher V count in a magical forest, and therefore are able to do a few more things over here. So that is your observations. Now, like I said before, the theories. If I complete a theory, there we go, I should therefore have some experience under. There we go. Theory, Arcane Infusion. I gained a good percentage on that one, but not very much on the others. If I click here, you can see that I have Theory, Arcane Infusion. I gained 100%. The others, not so much. There are other things that you'll want to know about theories, and that is how sometimes, if I choose here, you notice one of the ideas have been used. Using this to create a theory, I might be able to gain extra things. You'll notice the runes around the edges. This is one of the special things that we gained from that little bookcase there, and we can gain extra bonus on the fundamentals. And I can continue on with this and so on, or I could scrap the theory and start over. Each time I turn a page, I'm using up one of these papers. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, what else can we do to enhance this? Well, at some point, besides scanning these things, you're going to want to be sure that you are scanning the skies. This is a new addition on here. You can scan up here in the sun, but you're going to want to make sure you have some paper and some scribing tools in your inventory or it will not work. You can scan up here, and nothing can be learned from this. Reason being is that here we have to choose Celestial Observation, which needs to be completed with at least 1 level of observation, artifice, and oromancy being scanned with your scanning tool. If I complete this theory, there we go, I can therefore start with my celestial observation, which is scanning celestial bodies. But not just yet, because we still need to move on with our Thaumanomicon. So to cover celestial observation a little bit more thoroughly, what this basically will allow you to do is better research things. If I have my thermometer out and I right-click with paper and scribing tools in my inventory, it will give me a celestial note. Now this is just the sun. If it is nighttime, I can scan the moon and its different phases, but you can only do so once each day or night. And during the nighttime, you can scan the 4 different axes, like north, south, east, west, and gain a paper for each of those. You can only do that once each night. You should do this as often as possible, from as early as possible as you can. The reason I suggest this is because over time, you may have the option as one of your theories, if it asks for an item that needs to be sacrificed or in your inventory, you can actually donate one of your celestial notes, if that is one of the required things, and gain big, massive benefits from it. So it's something that you're going to want to try and stockpile for later use. We still need to move on with our Thaumanomicon, discovering Alchemy. Complete that, and Alchemy has been discovered. Next, it's telling us we need to make a crucible, which is wonderful because I happen to have one right here, which actually is a cauldron, and it doesn't have to be over fire just yet. I just happen to have that already set up. Now, in order to make a crucible, you just need to have a cauldron and a little bit of, you guessed it, Salus Mundus. Right-click, it goes in place, and poof, turns into a crucible, which also, by the way, may add extra bonuses to your theories, provided that you have things, well, scanned and ready to go. Now let's scan this, and be careful though, because the top edge of this block is very dangerous. If I get a bucket of water, and I right-click on here, I can then add it to the crucible. And if I right-click anything on top of the crucible, it will go into it and become dissolved. So if there is water boiling and a fire underneath, causing that water to boil. So you're going to want to be careful. If you approach one of these things and you accidentally right-click on top with some kind of valuable weapon, tool, piece of armor, whatever in your hand, your Thaumanomicon, doesn't matter, or even your thermometer, it will be dissolved into this pot. So you got to be careful with that. Otherwise, you can throw the items in there as well. And in order to progress further, we just click on here. We've completed by making one of those, and I've also scanned it. Now next, it has kind of unlocked the way to Oromancy as well as Infusion. If I want to get Artifice unlocked, I actually need to go over here to a new tab in Alchemy. Click on this and go to Basic Alchemy. It then tells you the basic process of using your crucible. And in this case, we're going to want to make some kind of item. Specifically, we're going to kind of skip over here to alchemical metallurgy and making a brass ingot, which is going to require some instrumentum and an iron ingot. So we're going to need some kind of essentia being tossed in there. And what is going to have this? Well, it's simple enough. If it looks like a tool, it probably is going to have one. Right over here, I've got a stone shovel, which I can then just kind of right-click as a demonstration. I'm just going to right-click on the top. There we go. It's in there. And then I can just take a piece of iron, an iron ingot, for example, throw it in, and poof, I get back alchemical brass ingot. And you'll notice that the bubbles in here are still colored. That's because there is leftover in there. And it will eventually, in time, kind of evaporate. Or, if I so desire, shift, right-click, and it will empty it out. And there it goes. It goes into the air. That's a bit of flux. So if I have my thermometer and I hold still, you can see that there's a purple number, 1.2. That's the flux in the area. It will kind of distribute itself gently across some of the nearby chunks. And if you don't have very much of it, things should be safe. But if you have too much of it, things can be bad. Clicking over here, as you generate flux and such, you should start getting a notification telling you flux is bad. It causes taint. Taint can destroy all of your precious objects and things. Flux is the equivalent of bad aura out in the world, or bad V. And then taint is kind of like the Essentia version, where it takes a physical manifestation and will start kind of encrusting everything and destroying it, making it fragile, eating it alive, and generating evil mobs and stuff in the area. It could easily destroy all your belongings, everything you care for, and spread around. So you got to be a little bit cautious with that. So if you want to make your, well, Crucible experience a little bit safer than it currently is with the fire underneath, there is a way to do so. And that is with Nitor. Nitor is basically going to require a few items: Ignis, Lux, and Potentia, 10 of each, of which you should be able to find most of these on torches and coal for an example and starters. And then at the end you throw in glowstone dust to activate the recipe and give you a yellow Nitor. Now in order to do this, I have these items already in my inventory, so I'm going to throw 10 torches and 1 coal, just for the general use on that, because I just want to demonstrate stuff. I throw in glowstone dust, and there we go, I now have Nitor. But I can also take nether quartz, make quartz slivers, and salvage everything that's left in here so that it does not turn into any other kind of flux in the area. Now, if I have an uneven amount, like I have 11 or 13 in there, it won't work. It will turn some of this, for every 2, it will turn into 1 of the crystals. And I currently got Potentia crystals were left over off of that one. And I can use these in the future to toss them back in for other recipes. And what's on them? Only that one type of V is currently on it. And that's it. Potentia in this case. So you can have exact recipes and have less flux and taint in your area. And of course, with the yellow Nitor that I have, I can now put the fire out and place this underneath for a fire-free way of heating your crucible. Now going over here, we've actually done this, alchemical metallurgy. We have an observation of alchemy already in place, and an alchemical brass ingot. Complete that, and it actually unlocks a certain new thing, and that is artifice. Now in order to unlock the last one, golemancy, you're also going to need to unlock completely, not just access to, all 3 of these. Discovering aromancy, which requires a certain visit. It says here, visit the lowest depths of the world and visit the highest peaks you can find. In order to do so, I am going to go into spectator mode and give an example. If I hit Control J, you can see that I have on here my Y level in the top right corner. And once I get myself down below, I believe it's Y level 10, it should give me a notification that I have journeyed to a low enough depth, and therefore you have visited deep and dark depths and have learned much. And it'll be the same thing for going up above to Y level 120 or above. So once you've done that, you should be good to go. Jumping over here, I am now complete with visiting the lowest and highest peaks I can find. Completing, and that should allow me access to the next area. But it doesn't, because this one is different from the others in that you actually need to craft another item, and that is going to be a casting gauntlet. If you first make a V resonator, you should be able to make that. Now let's see if I have enough materials over here, which I don't, so let me get those quick. I'll need at least 6 iron ingots, some leather, a bit of quartz, and a spare thermometer. So to start with, we also need to do this on our workbench, which is going to be 3 iron ingots will make you iron plate at the cost of no V. It is free. It's just the cost of iron ingots. 1 of those plus a piece of nether quartz will make you a V resonator, which will cost you 50 V. Put that in place, plus some leather on either side. 3 iron ingots and 1 of your thermometers go in place here at a cost of 100 V. If you don't have enough in your area, try the next chunk over, or the next chunk over. Just look around a little bit. You should find one with enough V in that you can make yourself a caster's gauntlet. By making both of those, you should be able to pass over this, complete it, and move on to the next area. Now, in order to discover Infusion, you should get a bit of arcane Infusion observation, once again, scanning a lot of items. If you scan all of your different objects and tools that you've made so far, you're going to be set. But otherwise, you might need Aurum and Precantatio. And if you haven't scanned everything, then I highly recommend you do so, especially your Caster's Gauntlet. For instance, scan that, and pow, I got a whole bunch of good stuff from that. I have now discovered both of those, and those are complete. I can therefore start on with Infusion. Now, discovering Artifice. That one, of course, will take an observation of Artifice, which, as I showed before, is just scanning a bunch of things, but also Census and Machina. If you don't have these, there is a very simple way of actually obtaining that, and that is with 2 pieces of wood. And you just make yourself a wooden pressure plate, and you scan that. And what do you get? You get Machina, Census, and extra stuff there. So there you go. That should cover everything that you need for that one. Complete. And you can now move into Golemancy, which, as before, more observations, as well as study an animated construct. Now there are a couple different kinds that you can choose from. One is an iron golem, which is very expensive. Another is a snow golem, which is less expensive. But if you have trouble finding a pumpkin, as well as a bit of snow, then you might be in trouble. Now in this case, I'm just going to put down snow, and a pumpkin. And then I'm going to scan him. And there we go. I have now unlocked that one. Looking on here, current stage, complete. We have now unlocked Golemancy. And what do all these things mean now that I've unlocked them? They've unlocked all new tabs for you to explore. So I think that's about it for this getting started into Thaumcraft. I mean, there is plenty more to this mod to be discovered, but for now, I think that should get you well on your way to accessing a good portion of everything. Keep in mind that at the time of this video being made, that Eldritch research is currently not actually available to be achieved. So if you guys enjoyed, be sure to give it a subscribe, comment below if you so desire, as well as spread the mischief to others if you think that they'll enjoy this kind of content too. And until next time, folks, I'll see ya.